Turning back to the case of Breonna Taylor, as Trump's Justice Department announced on Wednesday that it will seek just 1 day in prison, time already served, against a Louisville, Kentucky police officer charged in connection with the raid that led to her death in 2020. Joining me now is civil rights attorney. I call him, and many do have joined me, calling him the Attorney General of Black America, Attorney Benjamin Crump. Attorney Crump, thank you for being with us. You and I have worked closely with families, including Breonna Taylor's. What's your reaction when you heard about this sentencing recommendation?
It was shocking, Reverend Al. It was offensive, it was insulting, and it betrayed all the principles of equal justice that we have long valued as the tradition from the Department of Justice. When you really think about how astonishing this is, you think about the messages that it sends to society today. Reverend Al, it suggests that the police can lie on a probable cause affidavit to a judge and have no consequences. It says that the police can also get convicted by a federal jury, an all-white jury, and yet still have no consequences. The police can be involved in the killing of an innocent Black woman in 2020 and still have no consequences. It sends a troubling message and sets a terrible precedent in America. The fact that there are other officers who have been convicted, like in Memphis, Tennessee, Tyree Nichols, those officers are awaiting sentencing. And will this department null and void that jury as well? It is troubling on every level.
Null and void the jury is what really troubles me. And to send this message, they could have said a lot of things, but the insult of saying we just asked for 1 day. But the memo was signed by Trump administration's Civil Rights Division, which since Trump has taken office has undergone a massive overhaul to focus on what it calls anti-white or anti-Christian bias. About 70% of the division's lawyers have left since January, which you and I had worked a lot with that division over the last several years. Christian Clark did a lot of work in areas that were needed. What's your read on what's going on there?
Reverend Al, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, especially the career prosecutors, were thought to be protected from political interference. That certainly does not seem to be the case under this administration. The fact that these frontline career prosecutors who swore an allegiance and an oath not to a president, but to the U.S. Constitution can be so flagrantly disregarded. All their hard work, all the many years of investigations, the fact-finding of evidence, the consent decrees, all just flagrantly disregarded by this administration like we've never seen in U.S. history. And so it only begs the question, what is next? I mean, when you think about the formation of the Civil Rights Division, it was started to protect Black Americans when Martin Luther King and John Lewis were being brutally attacked and discriminated against for trying to allow every citizen the right to vote. And now it's been turned on its head to say our primary objective is to protect white men from discrimination. I'm sure Martin Luther King and John Lewis and so many others are turning over in their grave. I even believe our founding fathers would be troubled when they look at how the Constitution is not being protected for all citizens.
Now, while I have you, I want to turn now to a separate case that you have recently become involved with. You're calling for the release of body cam footage in the fatal police shooting of 18-year-old Jabari Peoples in a suburb of Birmingham, Alabama last month. The state's governor is supporting the police in refusing to put out the footage. The officer, who has not been publicly identified, claims Peoples reached for a gun during a traffic stop. But his girlfriend, who was in the car, says Peoples was unarmed. Where does this case go from here?
You know, Reverend Al, there is a correlation between what's happening with Breonna Taylor and the actions of the Federal Department of Justice and Jabari Peoples, this 18-year-old college freshman from Alabama A&M University, who had never been arrested, no criminal convictions, was a model student, was killed by the Homewood police officer. And the fact that we used to depend on the federal government when you have southern states that seem to ignore the cause of equal justice for marginalized people of color. But we don't have them to call on anymore. And we continue to speak truth to power and say, if the police officer did nothing wrong in killing this young man, then release the video. What is it while the taxpayers pay money for these videos on the body cams and dash cams, and then, Reverend Allen, times when we need them most desperately to build trust and faith in law enforcement, they won't release those videos. Can you imagine a family who lost a son who was doing all the right things, had to bury him, and still didn't know, Reverend Al, why he was killed and how he was killed?
And they won't release.
Now more than ever, we need you, Reverend Al, and National Action Network, because I don't know where people can turn to in these days.
Well, we definitely are looking into this, but clearly, while I still have you, it brings me back to talking about National Action Network and what I do. This week was the 11th anniversary of the killing of Eric Garner, who died by police chokehold. This year also marked a half decade since the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, whose family you represented, George Floyd, whose family you represented, Breonna Taylor, whose family you represented. You and I have been working a long time in these cases and others to change laws and fighting police brutality in an unjust way against Black lives. What is the state of that struggle in your view right now?
Right now, it is under attack like we've never seen in our lifetime. And so we have to more urgently than ever hold a mirror to America's face and say, make the words on the courthouse walls, make the Constitution real. Let's don't make it be just a theory. Now more than ever, the world is watching, and they want to see, is America still the great beacon of hope and justice for all tomorrow? Does liberty and justice for all still apply? That's what the community in Alabama is asking with Jabari Peoples. That's what the community in Louisville, Kentucky is asking with Breonna Taylor. That's what the community in Memphis, Tennessee is asking with Tyree Nichols. And Reverend Al Sharpton, now more than ever, we have to continue to appeal to our better angels and say, America, we are better than this. We are better than this.
That challenge is certainly one I join you in calling for people to join us in doing that. Many thanks to the Attorney General of Black America. We need you right now to keep doing what you do. Benjamin Crump.